Okay, I hope this works out well. I'm finishing up part 3. I'm sorry for everyone that's had to bear with the car video and the really poor sound. I kept covering the mic with my finger. I'm not good at this, but I'm just doing what God leads me to do. I'll try to get better though. But you're going to hear car horns. The irony is I'm doing this wrap up about fear when a storm's coming. You may even hear thunder in the background. And fear kind of makes us think of storms. We're fearing a storm, and sometimes you hear the sound of something coming and you fear the sound more than the actual storm, because sometimes the storm can sound, what you see or hear coming or sense coming is scarier than what actually arrives. I think that's often the case, and I think the devil uses those things. We can kind of think of the thunder and the lightning as being all the things that the devil uses to try to get us in an uproar, get us worried, get us upset, get us fearful. And if we pay attention to those things instead of paying attention to what the Lord tells us to do and what He's done for us before over and over again, then we're going to get caught up in all the arrows and the darts that the devil throws to us. And what I've been trying to do is not listen to those sounds. And this is a God-led thing. I didn't even plan on saying it this way. Tune out the outside noise. Tune out the things, the sights, the sounds, the senses that are making you fearful. Instead, recognize when you're feeling the fear. These are the steps. Recognize that you are coming from a place of fear. If you're getting tense in your muscles, if you're feeling panicky, if you feel like you have heart conditions, if you can't sleep, if you're restless, if you're irritable, if things don't go the way you want them to go or you think they should go, this could be signs of fear. So pay attention to that and recognize that if you feel like you're working or coming from a place of fear, then stop and recognize that that is in fact what is happening. Second of all, fear is from the enemy. Fear is from the enemy. If you are in fear, that's never from God. God never tells us to fear. So if it's not from God, who do you think it's from? From the enemy. So when you recognize your enemy, you can use strategies to fight the enemy, because greater is He that is in us than he that is in the world. So recognize your enemy, then start applying the strategies. So first strategy after you recognize is you resist the devil. In James it says resist the devil and he will flee from you. So the first way to resist him is to speak to him. The power of death and life is in our tongue, and I've not been good at speaking life. There are many situations where God warned me, speak life, speak life. I didn't speak life. I spoke from fear instead of from faith. I've reaped some big bad results from doing that, and I hope there are things God can reverse. I've probably done it with my child a lot too, and there's a lot of that I pray that He gives me grace for it and reverses. I want to speak life. So the first thing though we can do beyond speaking life into the situation is speak to the enemy. Tell him. Jesus did it. He said, get behind me, Satan. He said it to Peter, but He said it to Peter because Satan was in Peter. And when you look at your circumstances, it may not be the people around you or the circumstances, it may be the devil in those circumstances. So just recognize your enemy. You might not want to out loud say that to someone because they'll think you're calling them a devil, but when you're by yourself, say it out loud. Tell him, get behind me, Satan, get away. The next thing to do as a strategy against the enemy is to use scripture. Whenever Jesus was tempted in the wilderness, He always said, it is written. If Jesus is going to use quoting scripture to fight the enemy, then I pretty much think that's what we need to be doing too. So find yourself a lot of good scriptures on fear and against fear. Do not fear is actually written in the Bible 365 times. They say it's one for every day. So if you had to write all 365 out and read it out loud every day, do that. But get some, memorize them, speak them to remind yourself not to fear. Speak to the enemy, rebuke him, speak scripture to the enemy. Just say, devil, I'm not going to be afraid. Greater is He that is in me than he that is in the world. I'm not going to be afraid because He's given His angels charge over me. I'm not going to be afraid because He supplies all my needs according to His riches and glory. Find whatever applies to the situation. Use that scripture, speak to the enemy, and rebuke him, and he has to flee. But just remember too, anything you fear, you don't have to fear. Either God will prevent it, or if He allows it, He'll use it to make you better and stronger. And you know what? I'm glad. I am stronger. I am not the same. I'm not the same. I don't want to be the same. I don't want to live in fear. I don't want to live in anxiety. I don't want that tension. I don't like what it's done to me, my relationships, my health. He's changed me. So even if the thing you fear comes upon you, you don't have to worry about that either. God's just going to use it to make you stronger. So do not be afraid.